A beautiful Tuesday morning in Makudi, the Benue State capital. It was a cold night because of the rains, and the rain has come. Makudi and Benue State, of course, as an agricultural state, this is the period we go to the farms happily to cultivate our crops, and we hope that this season will bring plenty and plenteous harvest as a result of the rains. We don't know how it is at your end, but we hope that it's getting better and better. My name is Stephen Abba, and do welcome to Daybreak Benue on Benue Television. Very soon, our guest will be seated with us to discuss a very important issue. And we expect you to join us on this conversation through your questions, through your contributions as the program goes on. Before our guest is seated, there are one or two things we will need to talk about. Probably we want your opinion on this. Recently, and of course, yesterday, the federal government, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Abbas Tajuddin, Monday attributed about 80% of the current insecurity in the northwestern part of the country to activities of illegal mining. So the Speaker, however, lamented that despite the benefit that should have accrued to the communities, they will continue to live in abject poverty and deprivation, stressing that the time to act is now. This is not the first time we heard this, that insecurities, anywhere you find insecurity right now in Nigeria, is as a result of something has been found, maybe even a mineral that has not even been gazetted or been recorded. So this is not news. Every Nigerian knows that insecurity in most part of this country is as a result of the discovery of something. Now the question is that since the House of Rep, a top-notch a community of people in Nigeria, aware of this menace, the question is, what are they going to do about it? It is not just mentioning the crime. It is not just mentioning where it is, why it is happening, but it is whom will be arrested for this. Because if you know that this is why this is happening, it means you know the actors, you know the miners, you know the people sponsoring these miners, you know who is working, you know the companies that are working there. So I think it is important for government to move in now and begin to do the needful. Our security apparatus, our security personnel should begin to do what they should do to bring people to book. It is not just enough to mention people. Nigeria is tired with, sorry, it's not just enough to mention the problem. I think we are tired of just mentioning problems. Let us find solutions to the problems in Nigeria, especially when it has to do with insecurity. This is not the right time to begin to tell Nigerians about what their problem is or why their problem is happening and all that. This is when to begin to tell Nigerians that we can solve your problems. That is why we are leaders. That is why you were elected in the first place, because leaders are supposed to think while the people sleep. It is not just enough to sit to occupy a seat and say you are a leader. Leadership is responsibility, and one of the responsibilities is to keep your people away from insecurity, from harm. If you are not doing that, you failed as a leader. So we want the Senate, House of Assembly, all the security apparatus in this country to zoom in on this statement and begin to do what is needed to be done. So we'll be shifting our attention to other parts of Nigeria. Now the Media Complaint Commission, NMCC, has confirmed receipt of the federal government's complaints against Daily Trust newspaper on a story on the Samoa agreement, acknowledging the receipt in statement. You recall the agreement that was signed by the federal government, allegedly by the Daily Trust newspaper, that one of the main thing there that was mentioned was the fact that LGBTQ will be allowed in this country. And because of that, some members of our top government functionaries are being lambasted on the media, on the social media, and being insulted all over the place as a result of that. And now the federal government is saying, no, we are not responsible for that, and we are suing this newspaper house. We are asking this ombudsman to come do the needful. Now the question is whether it was signed or not, whether this is a libelous, because I think this is supposed to be a libel case now, or not. What we're saying is that culturally and otherwise, Nigeria is not ready and is not designed for whatever people think the government has signed. And with this stance, I think Nigeria is on the right path to say we don't want to sign that agreement. And if that agreement was signed based on that, it means it should be reversed, it should be rescinded. Such agreements for now, Nigeria is not ready for that. And I don't think Nigeria will ever be ready. Of course, this is my opinion, this is my take on this matter. It is very important to note that what we think, the people think Nigeria signed for, is annihilation of humanity. It is not something that is going to bring progress. It's not something that is going to bring growth. It's not something that is going to bring to place us in the stage of humans. Rather, it's going to become debased and, of course, something that is against your God and my God. So it's very important that Daily Trust comes up to either debunk this or bring proof, because one of the defense against libel or even slander or defamation of character is the truth. And if you can bring the truth and bring proof, then it is time to move on. So we're waiting for the report. Subsequently, before this week runs out, I believe that something will be happening in that quarter. But before we go on, please, we'll go on a short break. Do not go away. Stay tuned. Our guest will soon be seated, and when our guest is seated, we shall be talking more on a very important issues of things that is going to tinge your imagination, that is going to help you think in other ways that is going to make Nigeria better. And of course, we expect you to communicate, to contribute to whatever the discussion is going to be about. Please stay with us. Do not go away.
St. Francis Primary School, Agidi, is the institution where Governor Hassan Nathaniel received his primary education. According to the governor, his decision to rebuild the school is to provide indigent children the opportunity to have access to formal education the way he did. Governor Aliahu recounts the role Father Dominic G. played in his life as a priest, calls on the church to make provisions to accommodate aging priests after their service to the church. While praising Father G's priestly ministry that has served as inspiration to younger priests, Father Alia says the celebrant's milestone is a testament to his unwavering commitment to serving God and his people, which he has done with love, humility, and dedication. In a homily, Reverend Father Osbert V. Ashima acknowledges Father G's role in the translation of the Bible in Tiv language to enhance the propagation of the gospel in Tiv land. Father V. Ashima proposes reconsideration of a section of the canon law that prohibits Catholic priest involvement in politics, calling on the bishops to approach the Holy See to look into that section of the law to allow Catholic priests to represent the sensibilities of the church in politics while practicing as priests. He appeals to spiritual and traditional leaders to review burial rites in the land, with the view to addressing big and long ceremonies for the dead.
We acknowledge and affirm the good governance happening in our state today at the instance of one of us, the priests, the Reverend Father Isaac earlier, the Executive Governor of Benue State. And we assure him of our continued prayers, even as he's representing us very well and is poised to do more. That a second priest has had to come out again for civil governance speaks volumes about the quality of Christians we have so far produced. What lessons must we learn from this scenario? So, I appeal to our fathers to look the other way and shift their swords and close ranks with him, and be of one voice to deal with the issues of violence and strife in our communities.
Father Dominic G., born on March 12, 1948, was ordained a Catholic priest on July 14, 1974. He achieved a historic milestone as the first TV indigenous priest to celebrate Golden Jubilee in the sacred vocation, also retiring as the first TV indigenous priest to do so.
Benue Fashion Show Season 3 is here.
It's that time of the year for fashion designers, entrepreneurs, and fashion enthusiasts to shine.
This year, sale of forms for the competition begins from 15th
House Makudi. Form cost 5,000 naira only.
Stage 1 screening begins on the 6th of July 2024. Great prizes await you.
The first prize, 1 million naira. Second prize, 500,000 naira. And third prize, 300,000 naira. All prizes are inclusive of cash and fashion tools. Also, consolation prizes and gift items.
For sponsorship, partnership and inquiries, please call Benue TV Marketing on 0906 188 9838 or 0703 794 5569. Benue Fashion Show, embracing fusion fashion.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Daybreak Benue on Benue Television. Mercy, you're welcome to the studios, and you're looking good.
Thank you very much. Look good as well.
I saw something yesterday, and I think this should be glad to all Nigerians. Say the federal government has announced that the next stage of recruitment exercise into the federal fire service would immediate ceasefire in Gaza during this first visit to Israel. Am I reading the right story? I'm not reading the right story.
Okay, talk about the employment.
Yes, there's an employment. Yeah, recruitment into the federal civil service. Yes, the federal government has announced that the next stage of recruitment exercise into the federal fire service this time will begin in August. I think I also learnt about the federal civil service.
Yes.
Yeah, recruitment. And this is gladdening because I know what that means, because there will be mass recruitment.
Yes, most definitely. You know, many people anticipated lots of recruitment. It's usually one of the things or highlights or one of the things to look forward to when a new administration comes on board. But for the Tinubu-led administrations, though we're seeing snipers of recruitment, we're yet to see that massive employment into different ministries or parastatals or agencies. And here we have the announcement that that of the fire service and the civil defense corps is going to begin in August. And so what this means is that people should begin to dust their CVs, you know, and they get ready to send the application. But however, it's very important to let people out there know that you have to go to the official website of these agencies, you know, to get your information and where to even submit your CV. Don't go clicking on any link. And again, recruitment or application is totally free. You don't go paying money. As far as Nigeria, they have made this a couple of times, but sadly, people keep falling victims of these scams out there that take advantage whenever there is a publication.
It's the desperation to get employed. And you see, the Nigerian mind has been wired to think that nothing is free. So in fact, if it is free, the prospect of success is very slim. But when you paid for it, you are going to get it. So it's very important that you made the announcement. And you see, going to the websites of these agencies, I think you'll need to fill 1 or 2 forms online, because most forms for most agencies now are online. So you are supposed to do that. I know it is typical of Nigerians to go, they will not fill anything, but they think because they know somebody in the system, they will submit their CVs, speak to the person, and things will get done. I'll tell you a story of a a lady when she was a top shot in Nigeria here, name withheld. So there was this massive recruitment in her agency, which she was the boss, and people were doing one or two things. Then somebody came with a young man, and the man told her that, please, this young man is supposed to be recruited. Please, is there anything you can do about it? She now asked her, did he fill any form online? The young man said no. So then nothing can be done. That the filling of the online form is the first step to show readiness that you want to be employed. So this has nothing to do with whether I can give you express no. You have to do that, and that was how the guy lost the job. So it's very important that we note that and we do the needful online.
You know, there's this mindset that whenever there's publications out there that there is going to be recruitment, automatically they are done with the process.
Yeah.
That one is just formality.
Yeah.
Sadly, it may be the cases, but don't be surprised that things have changed, right?
It's not normal, so you can't
and
continue.
we can't keep normalizing
Yes,
such that whenever
yeah.
there's recruitment, they are done employing people through the back doors.
Yeah.
So they're just doing that for formality's sake, so that's to be in line with the law that guides employment or recruitment into the Nigerian services as required. However, it's very important that people begin to change their mindsets, that narrative, by applying, right? By the time everybody can go online to actually apply for this job, sit for the exams, and then you see how, I mean, it can't always be scam all the time or fraud.
Let's even
At least 30 or 50% has to be because they actually qualify.
100% has to be qualified. We should come to a place in this country whereby you have people overqualified for the job. You understand? It's not when you just somebody fills a space because he's my nephew or he's my niece. No, somebody has to fill the space because the person merits the place. So we should come to a place where people are overqualified in number as to the number of space left to be filled. And we should also come to a place where people will begin to think about doing the right thing at all times. We should not always think that there's always a back door. We can always bend the rules. Somebody said, if you can't break the rule, bend it a little. This should be a mentality Nigeria should shelf. We shouldn't be thinking about bending the rules all the time. They said, fill this form. They said, must I fill it? Yes, you must fill it. That's why they say you should fill it. They say, do this. You'll be asking for how you do it so that you don't have to participate in the process. This is wrong, and a point should come whereby bosses at the top, people at the top of our parastatals, ministries and the rest will say, because you've not done this, we are sorry, we can't do this for you, regardless of who you think you are.
Yeah.
You must come to this place where merit becomes the most important thing. It has happened in this country before, and it can still happen.
Well, speaking of employment, there seems to be high prospects for Benue unemployed citizens.
Yeah.
There are a good number of unemployed youths out there that have their CV ready and are waiting for the Benue state government to just announce, employment or recruitment in different sectors, and they'll go queuing up. Recently they had some of them in the sciences submit their CVs in the office of the deputy governor of Benue State. We're still awaiting the outcome to see how the process is panning out, and then how many young unemployed Benue citizens will be taken up. Those as for the sciences, we're still waiting for even the arts and the social classes as well.
And the skilled,
yes,
the skilled
and again,
people among us.
couple the fact that we now have lots of partnerships coming in Benue State and investors tripping into Benue State. We're really hoping that the thing of unemployed or having high rates of unemployment in Benue State will be a thing of the past, going by forward from next year. That this year already, though time is fast gone, but we'll begin to see massive employment, and not just employment with good pay. That one will be able to sustain oneself.
Let's talk about employment here. What is employment? I think is the ability to give something in form of work, a job, and take something in terms of maybe salaries or money and the rest of it. One good thing about massive employment, as far as I'm concerned, is the fact that you will not wake up, see young people moving around in the street, except during the weekends. So in the mornings, every place is quiet because everybody is at work. This is the way I think life should be. And there was that was part of how this country was in the past, where when you wake up in the morning, every place is quiet because everybody has gone to do one or two things contributing to.
There is a mental picture that came to my head when you made that statement. I pictured Lagos State, how busy it gets, and not necessarily because everybody is headed to the office.
Yeah.
Because everybody have one or two things they're probably out there to do. There is a viable business hub or business center.
Yes, of course.
Even the conductors are up early.
Good.
We're taking it for all serious.
Yeah.
Even the people selling by the roadsides, the businesses, everywhere is just so not necessarily waiting to put on suits and heads to the office.
Good.
People
Now,
are creating their own jobs.
I say something about employment. It's not basic. It's not just because the government must employ you. Employment is about you having value. You provide value and you are giving money next thing. So it can be anything. Now, just to buttress what you just said, it is very important to note that if you're a skilled worker, you can be self-employed. What the government need to do is to create an enabling environment. For example, see this power thing we've been talking about, that we can't boast of 24-hour power in this country is a problem. If you can give Nigerians 24-hour power 7 days in the week, 365 days, even 3 months, just a stretch of 90 days, you see the changes, because we are very creative in this part of the world. People will begin to innovate. So when you are skilled and you don't have anything to push your skill, you become redundant.
Well, let it also serve as a charge, to Benue unemployed youths out there, to think out of the box and create jobs for themselves, create jobs that they can even employ others to come work, not necessarily waiting for the government to call for CV submission, or before they will note that it's high time for them to leave just sitting under trees and drinking alcohol. But then they can be very useful, and again it's a charge against our institutions to see how they can train youths that will be employable, youth who can be self-sufficient, who can rely on their own skills, and not just depend to be handed down a white-collar job.
That is another thing to talk about. You see, these issues are numerous. You spoke about employable. Somebody said, I can't remember him now, but I watched him on television and they were interviewing him. He said, yes, we have many youth in Nigeria, but how many of them are employable? This is not about going to the university or having master's degree. This is not about certification. This is about what you have in your hand or what you have in your head. That most Nigerian youth are not employable, and that this is the issue we have in this country. I don't know how true that is yet, but I think to a large extent he was right, because it's not just about having. I told my engineer friends that I think by now government should begin to have issues with you. I say, if I was president, before the name engineer is stamped on your name, you must produce something. You must produce a workable machine. Even if you give us a design, let us have something that we can work with. No, it's very important, because this is what other nations, if you really want to be among the big players, you must start producing something. How long will you continue importing machines? You must begin to produce machines from within. So I used to tell them, of course, jokingly, that if I was president, before we put engineer, person, that in fact, if you put that engineer and you do not produce a machine, you go to jail, because it will become illegal. The truth of the matter is that we need to push ourselves hard in order to achieve what we're talking about.
Speaking of even pushing ourselves hard, it's quite I wouldn't want to say alarming though, how our Nigerian youths who are mostly unemployed, do everything possible just to leave the shores of Nigeria in search for greener pastures. And when they leave, they take on multiple jobs, and sometimes you find someone with a PhD going to do dishes in a restaurant for an hour. From there they move on to another shop, they're probably serving coffee. But when they come back to Nigeria, you don't find Nigerian youth willing to take up such jobs.
Yes, it is because we were a proud people. and I'm not saying pride
only within
here.
the territory.
I'm not saying pride here because I've accepted it as a way of life or something that is good. It is something that is destroying our system. You know, a lot of sentiments are applied here anytime we talk about jobs, we talk about family, we talk about friends and all that. But when you travel abroad, nobody cares who you are. Nobody bothers about your origin. It is just the job. If you can do it, somebody says certificate. If you can do it, we'll give you the money. But if you cannot do it, we'll kick you out. It's as simple as that. It has nothing to do with grammar. It has something to do with what you have to give.
Maybe it's high time again we revisit our systems, the way we have structured or wired, because the reason why we have so much hardship and families unable to cater for their needs with the meager salary because of the depreciation in the value of naira not meeting up is because they have been restricted or wired to just have just one stream of income and just stick to it. But then if you leave Nigeria, you have people doing multiple jobs at the same time. Therefore, it makes it even easier for them to cater for their needs and be able to provide. And it takes away less burden from the government.
Now you talk about structure, but we'll be talking about that maybe in our subsequent
it's a conversation we ought to have.
Discussion. We'll do for a break right now. We'll do for a break. Please stay with us.
Benue Fashion Show Season 3 is here.
It's that time of the year for fashion designers, entrepreneurs, and fashion enthusiasts to shine.
This year, sale of forms for the competition begins from 15th April to 19th July 2024.
Pick a form at Benue Television, located at Special Duties Wing, Government House, Makudi. Form costs 5,000 naira only.
Stage 1 screening begins on the 6th of July 2024. Great prizes await you.
The first prize, 1 million naira. Second prize, 500,000 naira. And third prize, 300,000 naira. All prizes are inclusive of cash and fashion tools. Also, consolation prizes and gift items.
For sponsorship, partnership and inquiries, please call Benue TV Marketing on 0906 188 9838 or 0703 794 5569. Benue Fashion Show, embracing fusion fashion.
St. Francis Primary School, Agidi, is the institution where Governor Hassan Nathaniel received his primary education. According to the governor, his decision to rebuild the school is to provide indigent children the opportunity to have access to formal education the way he did. Governor Aliahu recounts the role Father Dominic G played in his life as a priest, calls on the church to make provisions to accommodate aging priests after their service to the church. While praising Father G's priestly ministry that has served as inspiration to younger priests, Father Alia says the celebrant's milestone is a testament to his unwavering commitment to serving God and his people, which he has done with love, humility, and dedication. In a homily, Reverend Father Osbert V. Ashima acknowledges Father G's role in the translation of the Bible in Tiv language to enhance the propagation of the gospel in Tiv land. Father V. Ashima proposes reconsideration of a section of the canon law that prohibits Catholic priest involvement in politics, calling on the bishops to approach the Holy See to look into that section of the law to allow Catholic priests to represent the sensibilities of the church in politics while practicing as priests. He appeals to spiritual and traditional leaders to review burial rites in the land, with the view to addressing big and long ceremonies for the dead.
We acknowledge and affirm the good governance happening in our state today at the instance of one of us, the priests, the Reverend Father Isaac earlier, the Executive Governor of Benue State. We assure him of our continued prayers, even as he's representing us very well and is poised to do more. That a second priest has had to come out again for civil governance speaks volumes about the quality of Christians we have so far produced. What lessons must we learn from this scenario? So, I appeal to our fathers to look the other way and shift their swords and close ranks with him and be of one voice.
Welcome back. It was reported recently that the Dangote refineries begin to refine crude oil for the consumption of Nigerians and of course for export. The question has been, will this solve the Nigerian issues concerning concerning fuel? Will it be a short-term solution or a long-term solution? Our guest is seated with us in our studio this morning to discuss this important topic, Dangote Refinery, long and short-term economic impact. Our guest is Dr. Raymond Ao. He is a lecturer in the Department of Economics, Benue State University, Makudi. You are welcome.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
This issue about refinery, Dangote Refinery, coming in to begin refineries, of course, this should have happened earlier before now, but because of one or two things, I think last year, because of one issue or the other, it has been pushed to this time. And recently they even said it's going to bring in crude in August so that refining can begin proper. Do you think this is a solution that Nigerians should rely upon from now?
Thank you very much for that question. For the record, Dangote has already started producing from the refinery over a couple of months. Okay. It has churned out diesel into the market for a number of months now. Okay. The product that is going to start churning out in the market by next month, August, is the PMS, Premium Motor Spirit, the one we commonly use in our vehicles and homes for domestic use. Basically, because the initial discussion was that the catalytic unit that dismantled the crude into smaller products was not yet ready to get to the level of producing PMS, and now it's ready. So by August, we have been promised that we'll have that product. As to your question, there's no gainsaying as to whether the refinery will be a beneficiary to Nigeria. One, it's a huge investment that, one, on the aspect of employment, is going to generate a whole lot of thousands of direct and indirect engagement of employments, and on the side of supply system and into our economy, of course, it's going to give us the factory has the capacity to give us more than what we need for domestic consumption and still export. Yes. Okay. The Dangote refinery is the most longest single trend refinery in the world, so it has the capacity to give Nigeria what it needs and still have excess for export if it's producing at full capacity. So that is where we are. So it has a significant impact on the supply chain system of our PMS and petroleum product needs as a country. As to other dynamics and discussions is a different ball game.
When Dangote Refinery made the announcements that they were going to go into, commence production of fuel into the market, it gave Nigerians lots of hopes. Yeah. And again, with the support that it appeared to have gotten from the Nigerian government, it could take quite a long time actually to even get to this point where they are still talking about production sometime next month there. And many are still not even certain if that will actually begin, because they had promised Nigeria the time past that it would begin this month, and Nigerians will see that happening. They had come out to make an indicting statement that they have been sabotaged, ensuring that by some countries, ensuring that they do not produce for fuel in Nigeria. Do you see them actually carrying that capacity to actually stick to the next month's announcement that they have made, and they're actually going to produce this? They are still not giving Nigerians some excuse.
When you get involved in setting up a large-scale production process like the Dangote refineries, usually in project management you have leads and lags in your production, your establishment process. So you encounter problems that will have to shift your deadline. These problems could be technical, could be financial, could be environmental, could be policy-wise that you may encounter while you are doing this. So I believe Dangote, being a businessman, which we know that the only way he can be happy is when his product is in the market. Having a delay, I strongly believe, is not a deliberate one, because he has already put money on ground to a level that he's willing to see his product in the market, so that he begin to calculate when he begin to make his returns. So if he's unable, it means something serious, something very peculiar, germane must have taken place for that not to happen. So it will be in his interest, which I believe it is in his interest, and he will do anything possible to ensure that he has been able to utilize the earliest possible date to the best of his capacity to bring the product out. So if he has told us that PMS will be in the market in August, I believe his projections must have made him to understand that August will be feasible.
And sorry to cut in, by August, when that PMS in the market, do you really see it alleviating the hardship that Nigerians are currently experiencing? Because now, going by the diesel, when he rolled out his diesel, yes, it did step down the price, but it didn't really make that much difference or much impact, because a liter still went as high as 1,200 naira.
And some some persons in the oil business also said that at the rate at which he is selling that diesel, it means a subsidy.
You know, there are two sides of this. You know, every essential product like PMS that we clamor for, we have two sides of the pricing. We have the accessibility and affordability component.
Yeah.
So I'll speak to the access. With the upcoming of Dangote, it's guaranteed that you have access to PMS. You will not have issues of fuel queues, supply shortages. If they occur, they're going to be short term. Just a couple of hours, that those will be resolved, except the refinery has a technical problem that is shut down, which it needs to communicate over a period of time. The other side of affordability, Dangote will not give us something quite different from the existing pricing model, and the reasons are this: nobody is selling Dangote crude at a price lower than the competitive market price. So if I buy your raw material at the competitive market price, which a barrel of crude goes for from $80 to $84 at the moment. So will you come up and refine and sell at a lower price than someone else? Two, if you look at the dynamics of production, elsewhere in Europe, it costs about $10 to refine a barrel of crude. It costs about $21 in Nigeria to refine a barrel of crude. So competitive advantage, it is cheaper in Europe than in Nigeria in terms of refining. Now, you have those dynamics. So for you to sit categorically and say Dangote price will be lower than the market price is something difficult to say, given that at the moment Dangote is even the only component of pricing that would have been significant and different from the existing market pricing structure will be the issue of freight that you transport.
Yeah.
But if you look at the dynamics, Dangote is already transporting crude, is buying crude from abroad. So those dynamics are completely cancelled. And again, even if he's buying locally, the IOCs, the international oil companies who drills this crude, they are not located in Lagos. They are located in Niger Delta, which at least some component of cost, if he's buying crude in Nigeria, to move this crude from Niger Delta through barges into his factory in Lagos, it's also going to be a cost component.
Yeah.
So to talk about having price difference in terms of Dangote coming on board is unlikely. The difference will not be significant in any way.
Now, why is Dangote importing crude? When we were having refinery issues in Nigeria, the issue was fuel, PMS.
Yes.
So they were bringing in refined. So we were having crude issues. Now that we are refining, we are going to be refining now. It is crude oil issues, because it's going to be bringing a cargo of diesel from Brazil in August. So why do we have crisis in the crude market?
There is saying that Nigeria is a paradox. When we were having no refinery,
Yes.
we were exporting crude to buy refined product. Now that we have a refinery, we are importing crude to get refined product. That's a paradox. Well, if you understand the dynamics of the market, it will not be strange to you. You know, Nigeria produces crude,
Yes.
but it's produced in a form. It produced through joint ventures with international oil companies, the Shell, the Chevron, the Mobil, and all that, and other marginal fees, smaller oil which are in nature local, but their production capacity is small. those that have a large production capacity is Shell, Chevron, ExxonMobil, and all like the likes. So this joint venture means Dangote is in partnership with them. Today you hear of Nigeria producing about 1,200 barrels per day. Perhaps what may go to NNPC, which is about 500 barrels, because what is produced is shared among the joint venture capital. NNPC has its quota, IOC's carry that quota. So what that means is they are at liberty to sell their crude to whomever they want to sell to without restrictions, because they are a businessman and we do that. And the significant part of it that looks as if Dangote had an issue was the fact that as a producer of crude, I can do forward options, which is what they usually do. They get into contractual agreement with international marketers or refiners that I will supply you crude of this quantity for this period of time. That ensures that they have some level of stability in their production. That ensures that if I produce, there's always an off-taker. So these agreements are always reached. Any crude producer will get into that kind of agreement. So once the agreements are established, if I breach the agreement, I have to pay some fines. And it's on the basis of that you'll be told that there's no Nigerian crude available for Dangote to buy, because all these have entered those such agreements for to have income. NNPC on its part, what you would have had to give to Dangote, NNPC had entered into loan agreement on crude swaps. So once it stopped giving those crude, it means it has defaulted into loan payment. So it's also tight in the corner. So those are the dynamics that were happening or are happening that warrant Dangote to look elsewhere for his own crude, because we're already mortgaged or engaged into some agreement with what we're producing. So there are no anything left. What government needs to do at the moment is to expand our crude production, so that with your arrangement, what is coming new, Dangote can and take over. Remember, we have the capacity to up to 3 million barrels per day in this country. By 2008, 2009, we were doing 2.8 million barrels per day. As of that time, Jonathan era. So what stopped us from producing the same capacity? But when Buhari came in, a lot of issues happened, issues of crude oil theft and all that, and some of our IOCs, because of the operating environment, was not comfortable. They left this country to go and put their money elsewhere within Africa. So these are the dynamics that are giving us that difficulty in terms of what Dangote is doing. But remember again, even if Dangote is to get crude in Nigeria, he will buy at the same international market price. Nobody is selling him crude here at a lower market price because it's Nigeria.
No, the issue here is not about his buying. The issue here is that is the fear that we have crisis in the crude production area. Like, for example, you tell a Nigerian that Dangote is bringing crude oil from Brazil. He'll be asking, do we have, is it that crude is finishing? What is happening?
That's what I just told you.
Yes. So
crude is not finishing. If Dangote is buying from Brazil, simply because Brazil is producing larger barrels per day than Nigeria. But reserve capacity, we have 37 billion barrel of crude reserve than even Brazil, who has about 15 billion. You know, so Nigeria has more reserves of crude than Brazil. But the way Brazil has framed and structured their business is such that it has made it transparent. You know, the Petrobras, which is the equivalent of NNPC in Nigeria, the Brazil government owns only 9% of 8% of investment in that company. The rest is private sector driven. So there's efficiency in the market where investors, shareholders appoint directors on the board. And if you say today, in the next 9 months, our refinery will come up, if it does not come, you are fired, because you have to bring returns for us. But our case is government control, which is giving us that bottlenecks that we give stories about refinery coming up, and we hear humongous amount of money being invested in such refineries, and they come. The same thing with Aramco in South Africa. The same thing with British Petroleum, BP. They are all government companies, but the state government is owing now is minimal. So it allows market forces efficiency to play in the market for returns on investments or shareholders and investors that have placed their money in the market. Today, Dangote is telling us he want to take Dangote refinery to the market so that he can sell shares, bring more people on board, and get more money into Dangote's kitty to invest in iron. I mean, Ajakuta iron steel. That's what his next project is talking about. So on that basis, you have the capacity to expand your capacity as a country. But NNPC has become so reserved, to a level that is so opaque. Nobody knows what's happening in NNPC, and it decides what it declare that this is what we have earned, this is what we have spent, this is what we are left. So these are the challenges. So to answer your question directly, there are no crises in the crude market in Nigeria. The only crisis is that we're not producing enough crude, and the ones produced has already been sold or enter into contractual agreement in terms of forward options and swaps, which are operating. So for you to break those agreements, come with some penalty measures when you collapse them before maturity. You have some fines to pay. Except that those people are willing to get into those penalties to pay, they can break and then begin to consider Dangote.
What then is the economic impact, of Dangote refinery now producing petroleum into the country?
I just told you one earlier that if you have access, you have access to PMS. Access is also a factor. In Nigeria there are situations, even currently PMS, you have your money, you can find in filling station, you become frustrated. But with the coming of Dangote, you are guaranteed of access. That's one. Two, there's a very important component of it that we may not look at it now, but it's going to be very humongous. It's going to stabilize our exchange rate. Because the amount of money we pick going to import refined product, you now have to buy here using your naira. So you don't need to put pressure demanding dollar. So the price of dollar will certainly come down. And other measures, other dynamics that comes with factors like that in the economy, business booming, suppliers into the business and all that. So it has a larger implication.
Will it have any impact on the price though? Because
no,
as much as right now I see people queuing or trying to look for PMS and it's still not available. When Dangote refinery comes on board and makes it available, what about the price?
That's the point I want to make you understand. Don't ever mistake yourself that Dangote is coming to give you a lower price.
Okay, now if
Dangote is a business and it's a private competitive business out for returns. So there's no way if Dangote want to sell in Lometogo at a price that will give him higher value, and you are not paying the same price in Nigeria that you can give to you.
I'm confused now.
Yes.
If Dangote, if the production, just as you mentioned earlier, is going to probably the naira will respond positively to this from your early explanations.
Yes.
How would that affect the price of the per liter?
It can only affect the price of per liter if the input into the production of that product are reduced. And what are the inputs? Cost of a barrel of crude. If it's lower, which is not something you can decide with your Nigerian market, it's an international price. It's selling between 80 to 84 naira per dollar today. Remember, Dangote is generating his own energy in his own factory to produce. That's another higher cost. That's what I told that the cost of producing in Nigeria is higher than cost of producing in Europe. Perhaps a refiner in Europe we don't need his own energy to do that, because it's tapping from the general public energy supply, and he's using that. Several dynamics that play out. So if these dynamics will lead to reducing the cost of production for Dangote, you will see that his price will be lower. But at the moment, competitively, and we should not make noise about Dangote importing crude. South Africa doesn't have a single barrel reserve of crude, but they're doing very well. China doesn't have a single barrel, they're all importing. So Dangote can buy crude in any part of the world, provided he's giving us the the product. So we're only feeling that sense of why is it important? Because we're producing crude. But our product has already been sold.
My focus is even still more on even the price control,
yes,
because many Nigerians, the reason why they were so excited about that with the refinery producing PMS is the fact that they will now go back to the days of buying petroleum at a very affordable rate, even in as far as
that's a delusional thinking.
But if this is not going to happen, why then did Because one of the reasons why many analysts even applauded the bold decision of the Nigerian federal government to remove subsidy of fuel was to encourage both private and even investors to see how the government will refineries in Nigeria, so that Nigerians will gain that full benefit of having these products here in the country. But if the effect not go down to the common man out there still purchasing these products at a very low rate, then what's the gain?
Let me give an example that will clear your doubts, and whoever is watching.
Yeah, maybe you will speak in the layman's language.
Yes. Let me give you an example that will clear that. A barrel of crude is $80.
Okay.
Multiply $80 by 1,500. That's your exchange rate. All right. You're having an equivalent of about 1.something million. All right. And a crude. I mean, a barrel of crude has about 129 liters of PMS. So when you multiply 80 by 1,500, that's you get the equivalent amount in naira that you'll be able to buy a barrel. Take that and divide by 129 liters are in that barrel. You get about 754 naira. That is just the barrel cost. So if Dangote is buying a barrel at the international market at 80 naira per barrel, all right, and it costing him 754 naira per liter, even on without building other cost inside, and you say the thing will come lower, it's not possible. So people that all speak in that manner don't have the technical understanding of how this works. It's completely impossible for you to be able to say the price of crude will come below 700, given the price of PMS will go below 700, given the current pricing system of the crude.
Let's say what you've just analyzed is the scenario. So how does that affect Naira positively?
Like I said earlier.
Yes, I need you to speak in a layman's.
Yes, I'll try to make that that. You know, you need huge amount of dollar to import PMS.
Okay.
You know, it costs about $930 to buy a metric ton of PMS. And a metric ton has about 1,241 liters. All right. So if it costs you $930 to buy a metric ton, and you need to buy 2 billion liters, you have to demand humongous amount of dollar from CBN for you to fund your purchase offshore, onshore rather. So what that means is you are taking away, because certainly CBN will give you, because he knows that you are importing a sensitive product, and you also want to pay your child school fees, you want to go for medical trip, you want to import other items, that's other people within the economy. Now the dollar is no longer enough, so it becomes a competitive pricing, because dollar price is dollar, that's what we call it a foreign exchange market. Forex is a market for buying and selling of foreign currencies, using your local currency to buy. It's just like a Wurukum market, but it's a virtual market. Wurukum has many sellers, many buyers operating. So is that market. However, there is a reconciliator, or which is a central bank, who sees that whatever is within us, let us see how we can share it among competing needs and demand. However, there's a technique they use. They don't allocate arbitrarily. They collect bidding pricing of all people interested. How much are you willing to pay for a dollar today, and take an average of it and decide that this is how much you sell today. All right. And if the pressure is much, because I desperately need a dollar, I'm going to bid high, so that let me not fall out of the supply for the day. Now, but if the pressure is low, there's no much demand of it. I know that we have more than how many people, at least you have a fair knowledge of daily demand of exchange rate in the economy if you play into the market after some time. So, and you have a fair knowledge of the inflow at a given time. So it gives us an insight as how much I can be that I'll be able to get. Now, if the inflows are much, there's less demand, definitely I'll bid at a lower cost. That is a system where the demand forces determine the price of the exchange rate. It makes it good to appreciate or depreciate the local currency, in our case the naira. So if there is no longer a demand from the central bank for dollar to import refined product, it means there's less pressure, there's less demand for dollar, and definitely the price of dollar will exchanging for naira will in naira terms will drop. All right, meaning naira has appreciated over the dollar for a given period. And to the perspective of import dependent country, that helps the people, because you are not producing locally and you need some basic necessities that has to be imported, you need some raw materials that need to be imported. So that lowers your pricing system, because you are importing at a lower cost. It means your price will also be lower. That means our inflationary pressure will be reduced at some point. So that's the angle that it play out in that market that works to say it has impact on the exchange rate.
Okay, that is
With
quite
the coming
educating.
on board of Dangote refinery, do you see this even leaving room for more refineries, if possible even government-owned refineries, to come on board here to create a competitive market? That way the common man out there will be able to some point even get petroleum as low as back to the days of 200 or 150 naira or even 300 naira.
I've seen that, yes, there's a room for that. Boa have started his own factory in Akwa Ibom. Rabiu, this Boa group, they're also starting their own in Akwa Ibom. And to other government refineries come on board, I've lost confidence in that, because government has put in so much amount of money in these refineries at the moment, and nothing is coming out of it. And if government can go by my own proposal, I propose that government should privatize NNPC and just maintain just about 30% shareholding in NNPC, and looked for technical, competent, deep-pocketed investors who has the capacity to manage NNPC and let them take over the management of NPC, let them revive the refineries and run them and give government profit at the end of the day, because that is what is working I give an example of Petrobras. Brazil government owns only 8% of shareholding in Petrobras. That is what in now Nigeria we have done, that experimented that in the gas industry, and then energy, this liquefied natural gas, LNG. We have government owns only 49%, 51% is owned by private industries, and there's no time we are hearing stories of the gas is produced and being exported quietly as it does, as if there's nothing, no pressure. The same thing with Aramco. Saudi Arabia, that's what they are doing. They have listed their companies on their stock exchange, and they're thinking of listing in New York Stock Exchange to get a global investment into their local. When you search, you get the money and expand the production capacity. So government should not be fixated, and Nigeria should not be fixated on that nationalistic thinking that we own this when it's not benefiting us at all. The whole idea is for us to have value for the system. The whole idea is for us to enhance our welfare, and whichever model or mechanism that will make us achieve that is I recommend it, because I have seen it work elsewhere. I've never seen a government-owned business venture without private sector participation that is doing so well that can recommend, except few exceptions in China, which is a control system. It's not a capitalist system, even though they are opening up some level forms of capitalism, but in terms of leadership they have not been able to open that. But any capitalist environment where there's government control, you have these bottlenecks for government. Obasanjo had the best plan for NNPC. When he said he wanted to sell it, he initiated the process of selling the refineries, but Yar'Adua came and upturned it. But that's just the way we can go, that will make us as a country to see value, because it has consistently over and over proven that this is not feasible for whatever reason. I don't know.
Okay, quickly, maybe we'll digress a little.
All right.
You said ex-president Obasanjo wanted to sell NNPC before it was overturned. Okay, now the power sector of Nigeria, as far as I'm concerned, is no more in the hands of government. It's in the hands of privateers. But I don't think they've solved the problem of power up until now. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, first even deteriorated.
Yes, you still blame government for that. You see, we have distribution companies, which are the last end of the business chain. You know, in the industry, you have you start from the Gencos, generating companies. You have the transmission companies. You have the mediators, which are the embed that will house the the energy, then the in terms of price, in terms of financial transaction, then it now move on to the discos. Government privatized the discos. Government sold 51% shares and maintained 49% shares in the discos. That's what government did. So in every distribution company in Nigeria, you see, that was government owned, government still owned 49% of it, giving out 51%, which is a controlling share from the private sector. That's enough for the private sector to turn it around. But there's a problem which government is not able to do. And this problem is a very strong problem, and up to now government has not been able to do. And the distribution companies have decided to hold government to the jugular over that. That is the distribution system. You know, what we call the national grid is still owned by government. The transmission company of Nigeria that manage that.
100%.
Yes, 100%. No divestment in that. So what then happen is the generating companies, which are also in a way they were also concession out, sold out. Some are concession, some were sold 51% stake in these generating companies. The GENCOs at the moment producing about 5,000 megawatts of electricity, but our transmission company cannot wheel up to that amount of 5,000 that are producing. So we complain that we're not producing enough. The little that is produced, our transmission company cannot move it to discos complete. They have obsolete transmission equipment. For instance, if a disco pay for 500 capacity of electricity to be delivered its own base station, where this house is a warehousing transformer before it moves into homes. By the time you move it from the producing unit and reaches its own warehousing transformer, there's what is called transmission technical losses.
Has leaked.
Yes, the energy have leaked off. Yeah. All right. So what comes to the discos is not up to 500, around 350, 370 amount of energy that reaches in, and this is as a function of obsolete equipment that are not able to transmit efficiently to the. So when this comes to the disco said, no, hello, I say give me 500, only give me 350. Okay, and this dispute ensued. The disco gets to the last consumer and say, okay, I'm going to it gives you 350, but charges you for 500 because that's what he paid for.
Yeah.
So these are the shenanigans, the challenges that we're having. Buhari brought in Siemens from Germany to help see how they can revive the transmission network. But up to the moment, at some point they left. Buhari government came, they discussed, they returned back. So we're seeing how they can be able to fix this transmission company, that efficiency in transmission will ensue, such that we will be able to hold the discos to the jugular to live up to their expectations. Second, the area which I say government fail. Government have regulatory agencies, isn't it? And it's expected that each household that is consuming electricity should be metered. But deliberately, these guys don't want to meter this system because they know that they're not giving you the desired amount of energy. Because if they know that they meter you, they will make losses. Because the transmission company did not give them enough of what they have purchased. So if they give you only 350, they will say I make losses. So they deliberately don't want to meter you, so that at the end of the day, they transfer the entire cost on you, so that they will not be at the end losers of the business chain. So these are the challenges that we find in our environments that are giving us, and looks as if things are not working absolutely. If the transmission company is efficient, we're metered. We'll not have much of the credit, even though we not have enough electricity, but we'll not be complaining of those issues. And you see, these regulatory agencies, they are not putting pressure on the discourse to meter the people, because once they come, they put the facts on the table for them that these are the facts, so they go back. So these challenges are both government
and consumers.
Exactly. So these issues are just both government fault and all that.
That was quite educating.
Nigerians never found turn to the day where they'll buy a PMS as high as 800 naira, going to even 900 naira. But here is the reality on ground, and surprisingly, they are coping or dealing with the situation. Does it look like they will ever go back to the days of getting that at a lower cost? Or I'm going to bring in the issue of removal for a subsidy now. Do you think government got it wrong?
But we'll do for a break right now. by the time we come back, you are going to talk about that. All right. I hope this conversation is an interesting one. You'll still join us on our social media handle as we proceed on this conversation. Hold on as we go on a break. Stay with us. Welcome back. If you are just joining us, we've been discussing Dangote Refinery long and short-term economic impact. And our guest has been Dr. Raymond Ao, a lecturer at the Department of Economics, Benue State University. Earlier, Mercy asked about the implication of subsidy removal.
Yes, I mean, not even just the implication, because it's been removed.
Yeah.
People were hoping that when refinery comes on board, then that will cushion the effects and they'll be able to go back to the days of buying petrol at a lesser cost.
Yeah.
But it appears from all indication that will likely not be the case. So, did government actually get it wrong with that decision of fuel subsidy? Or what needs to be done to ensure that this issue of PMS, at least people get it at a favorable price?
You see, pricing mechanism of the PMS product, because it's an international product, it always connotes a national, it also carry a national connotation in pricing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an international product, so it always give us that international perspective on its price. If I'm extracting crude in Nigeria today, as an individual, and I know that I have a market that can sell at a competitive price, and it doesn't take me any extra cost to do that. Badges will come at the show and load and go. They pay me my money. Then someone is refining at the local corner. I want me to sell at a lower price. All right, that's going to be a challenge. That's going to be a challenge. One area that Dangote could do to help Nigerians, if you really want to be nationalistic and have that philanthropic nature, is to get into crude oil extraction. Extend his tent. Let Nigeria give him some marginal fields where he can, get his crude himself and ship the crude to his own refinery. And if he wants to help Nigeria, he may decide that the only way Nigerian government can give that from Dangote is to give you some levels of concession for him to sell you at a lower price. And that's what many Nigerians are calling for government not to do for Dangote. Because don't build up a monopoly that becomes too powerful for you to handle. Look at alternative sources of refining product within your country that will give competition for price, that companies themselves will begin to look at strategies to reduce my pricing. Okay, if Dangote is on board and God willing BUA comes on board, you are able to fix your Port Harcourt and worry. Kaduna refinery is something we cannot go for because it has a challenge. It's the nature of the crude needed to use is the Venezuelan heavy crude, which for now we only refine a very small quantity of it. So it's Warri and Port Harcourt, which put together give us about 300 and something barrel per day, which we need about 400 something. But that can also go a long way in being competitive with Dangote. So we'll see. But if you have private investors that revive this and are also selling, so there's price competition within the system. Let's see who can give us a fair deal. for independent marketers and major marketers to go buy from. So with all that, it will help us to lower the price. Again, another dynamic that will lower the price if there's a reduction in the price of crude at the international market, and some certain things happening. Factors that influence or drive PMS crude are diverse and are something we cannot control at our local level. Even Nigeria completely stop producing, it may not make money for that because of the OPEC Plus policy of giving quotas to countries that produce. So these issues is delicate to say a private business will sell at a price that will beneficial to you in a way, except the market forces compare that price to get to you. If the market forces are favorable for price reduction, you see Dangote even reducing price. But if the market forces are backing price rise, you also increase the price. So it's a function of demand and supply. What I'll discuss these days generally is we are where we are. The subsidy also was unsustainable, to be realistic. As a government, it was unsustainable. As an economist, I had backed it up with support for it to be removed, because you don't subsidize consumption in a large economy like Nigeria. It will be abused, and certainly it was abused. Rather, you subsidize production. Whoever wants to set up a refinery, these are the subsidies I will give you. Go ahead and do it, so that you get more people refining within your local economy. However, the manner in which the policy was done differs from me. It seems to me as if I'm on a high tension, on a tall tree, and on the floor there are grasses, there are bottles, there are stones, and I jumped before calculating where I want to fall. So along the air, I'm trying to twist myself that let me go and fall in a safe place. It was for me to have looked down and see where I can fall, and fall safely and drop. That was a mistake the current administration did. It was unable to sit down with policy handlers to think through this subsidy we are removing. Is a very sensitive product, so it's going to have ripple effects on the economy. How do we mitigate this? How do we reduce tax for our employees? How do we reduce income tax, value added tax for producers of essential commodity into the economy, so that even as the price of this energy is increasing, that means if definitely increase the cost of production, they're going to get a bet from this other side, thereby their prices will not go astronomical as if the combined forces were together. So they fail to look at these dynamics to see how they can be able to cushion the impact in real sense, not palliative sense. This palliative is temporal and momentary. They go in real sense that can hold the structures and foundation of production back. Now we're losing production capacity. Manufacturing Association have just given figures how the production capacity in manufacturing is shrinking because of lack of purchasing power from the customers. People are no longer demanding, so factories are not producing as much as they should produce because there's no demand, and that means sooner or later layoffs will come up, sacking people in factories and industries. So these are the dynamics. He did not reason very properly, and then and again, to worsen the situation, he brought a second policy of exchange rate liberalization, which also was very sensitive to our economy, given that we're import dependent. So combining these two policies really caused a lot of difficulties in the economy, and that called for the fact that he also acknowledged that is a very serious problem. And you see how recently he set up the Presidential Economic Coordination Council to see how they can bring in. And again, he's going through the same old way of bringing money and throwing on the people. They want to inject 2 trillion into the economy. Those are monetary issues. I look at also fiscal side that support the monetary issue. Injecting money does not necessarily support and stabilize the economy. If it does, Buhari did a lot of that. Would have seen some level of stability in the economy by now. But our system works the way it works. You throw that money, the privileged few take it, and they're off the air. Some get the money and leave this country completely, Japa, and go and start something or live somewhere in any part of the world. So these are the kind of challenges we have. So he needs to look at the real side of the economy, which is the manufacturing sector, that this is what I need to do for you to stabilize, not necessarily pumping money into the economy. So to answer your question directly, the policy is not a regret. It's implementation that can be rejigged. But we have a system where our leadership don't listen. When they take a policy, they want to stand by it by force, whether it's working or not. We did this, we stand by it. But where we have a responsive leadership, you begin to see how you do this. Okay, we did this, we have seen some challenges from the exchange rate, we are going to maintain it, but to the subsidy, this is a level at which we return subsidy, and we do this gradually to see that our refineries are on board, and at this point we remove subsidy completely, so that people prepare their mind and also work towards that. And you are also working there to ensure that your refineries are on board. With your refineries, you can know how to cut costs and bring in product in the market, that because you may not be focused too much on profit making, so you look at the welfare of your citizens. So from your factory, government-owned factories, you can bring a product that will be able to serve the needs of the people. Unfortunately, government has lacked capacity to manage these functional industries to stand.
Yes, and they're not seeing these things, and what the people are receiving from that end is promises that this is only temporary. Before you know it, now the sufferings will be history, but people are not actually seeing the yardstick being put in place and ensure that these things eventually will become a thing of the past.
You know, the temporary thing, like he always gives that example, that he gave us example of a pregnant woman going through labor. But I also give government back that if we allow a pregnant woman to labor for too long, she will die, and the unborn baby will also die. So don't allow Nigerians to suffer beyond that. You will not have an economy any longer, and we're getting closer to that, because nobody will have the capacity to produce. Nobody will have the thing, because why would they not have capacity to produce? Because citizens don't have the capacity to demand. You can only produce when there is a demand. So when we don't have the resources, we're only trying to see how we can eat. Barely. People park their cars, riding their bikes and moving around. So these are the basic challenges we have. And when you now begin to see the complete erosion of the middle class and economy, when it's time from the haves and the have not, means the economy has completely collapsed, because the middle class that have the capacity to consume manufactured products, the lower category, you are subsistent. So you just live, you are just living. So these challenges are there. And if government is sincere, he needs to also look at rejigging how they're implementing these policies. The issue of Naira devaluation, it would have helped us so much if we are producing and people are coming to buy, because exchange rate is a two-edged sword. If you want a strong exchange rate, it means you're going to have less demand of your product because the international community will be too expensive for them to buy product into your company, into your country. And that is why countries that manufacture a lot, like Japan and China, they are always accused by US of currency manipulation, because they deliberately lower their exchange rate so that it will be cheaper for you to buy in their countries that buy in US and Europe. So Europeans will not be buying American and European products, but come to buy Japan and Chinese product because it's cheaper, or the same quality for them. So, but if your currency is strong, it discourages that to do. So if we're devaluing our currency and yet we're still not producing, all right, and when your currency is strong, it means you have the capacity to attract, to buy from abroad easily, all right. So, but at the moment Nigerian currency is weak, we don't have the capacity to buy from abroad, and we also don't have the capacity to produce locally. So we're in a big dilemma. We have no choice than to buy so expensive abroad, because if we were producing, we now return back to demand our local product, but our production capacity is weak. So we're in a very serious dilemma. It costs us so expensive to import, and we must import. Look at our roads. Toyota, Honda, everywhere. Our government is still patronizing this product, as this current government is still patronizing that, buying 400 something million. Nobody's looking at, let's see how government can support Innocent, and let's see government patronage. We're not looking in that direction. We cannot be able to, So these are the challenges we have.
Okay, now, how will the energy sector benefit from this Dangote refinery by the time it stabilizes? Is there anything the energy sector can benefit from it?
Sure. Like I said, the energy sector, not just energy sector, Nigeria at large will benefit from Dangote refinery.
But let's talk about energy now, because that has become like a permanent pimple that refuse to go.
You see, You see, when you talk of energy sector, there are segmentations in the sector.
All right.
Okay. Energy and power. You know, energy sector benefit because we have access to the product locally. The timelines that we say take us 90 days, 30 days to import, we can get it in number of days, product from our refineries to our locations, both upstream or lower stream in terms of north and south. In the entire ecosystem of the energy system, you will see that there's capital injection into the system. You see that more people within the sector are becoming more productive, in that the system is producing within that arena, and professionals in the arena are going to be more upbeat because there's activity in the system. So the energy sector will benefit basically in the velocity of movement of activity within the system. Velocity in terms that if I'm a consultant in oil and gas,
You were saying that the Dangote refinery has nothing to do with gas because their production is basically PMS and probably the products of other products of diesel. Okay, now let's look at the. Messi earlier asked about the competitive nature if other companies begin to delve into oil production. You spoke about the relief it will give to Nigerians. Okay, now let's look at Dangote oil refinery in the next 10 years and as to what Nigeria is going to benefit from that. I think this should be a wrap up right now.
Yeah, given the capacity of Dangote refinery, I believe when he was building that refinery, he had in mind that it's not about a Nigerian refinery.
Yes.
Because if it's about a Nigerian refinery, I would have been looking at a crude consumption of 4,500 barrels. But it's over 600,000 barrels per day. So he was looking at Nigeria and West Africa at mind. and even beyond to sell his own refined products. And remember, in a refinery, you have principally PMS, premium motor spirit. You have AGO, which sometimes we call diesel, which some people call it. In America, the PMS is called gas. All right, but here we call it PMS. And we have the AGO, which is the diesel. We have the aviation fuel. You have the kerosene. You have the condensate, and you have the other minerals that comes from it that are used to produce different kind of things, like fertilizer and chemical and paint. So it has a large network. So from Dangote refinery, you will see that it will be able to give us products that people in agriculture can utilize in terms of production of fertilizer. It can also be able to give us product where people in paint industry can utilize. It can be able to give us product which, can you imagine, at some point Nigeria was importing bitumen to tar our roads, and we're going to have abundance of that, which other countries can rather import from us, and other minerals that are extracted from this refining process as byproduct. If his catalytic unit that break down the hydrocarbons into smaller units is a modern style, it can be able to get several products from this, and the industries that demand this product that hitherto were imported will begin to buy from Dangote refinery. So the multiplier effect on the entire economy is huge. It's a big development. It's a welcome development. What Dangote has done is something huge to the economy. The only side that Nigerians are not clearly getting a good picture of it is the expectation that the factory will drastically lower the pricing of the products in the market, which is not so. Dangote solely cannot lower the price of this product, except you want to produce at loss. Because I gave you an example here of how much this product is sold at the international market, and Dangote is buying $80 per barrel, which is the benchmark. Some brands, which Brent is WTI, is selling at 84 barrel per dollar, a dollar per barrel. Sorry. So if that comes to play, there's little Dangote can do to change the pricing mechanisms or dynamics per se, except government is giving him some form of rebate or subsidy within the system in terms of tax and in terms of other incentives that will warrant him to lower the price for the quantity he's giving us. Even if NMPs want to go into crude swap, where we say we give you crude at this, which Nigerian government was doing at some point. But again, you have to quantify and price up the value of the value of the crude, so that it goes with the same, you can quantify it in monetary terms, so it makes no so much difference. So let's welcome Dangote on board. He has done something which is very unique, and people can score him so many names, but I always appreciate him. Because he has a tenacity to put through for him to conceptualize that idea in environment at that time. It means he's a lion-hearted human being that can only think of that. He does that and other queue up. So it's somebody we should be happy that we have, irrespective of so many things people call him, names they call him, being a monopolist, being market manipulator, and all those names. It's a system that are giving him the opportunity. If he's not that person you're calling that name, he wouldn't have been Dangote today. Except he is that names because that's what brought him to where Dangote. That is how business play. When you play in a manner, you remain at that level. You must have to stand up and stand strong. So as to how that will impact us, accessibility is guaranteed. Pricing, we pray other factors come in our favor so that pricing can lower and come down.
Which is very possible because of maybe tax waivers and the rest of them.
Exactly.
This is very possible, and Nigerians are actually expecting that because the pricing is a major thing. Accessibility issue will be solved.
Especially seeing that the pricing of these premium motor spirits affects majorly almost every aspect of our lives. It's even the prices of foods in the market. They'll tell you how much they use in bringing them from the farms or the villages to the city.
Another angle that can also help, we are speaking of exchange rate. I told you that a barrel is $80 per barrel, and we're converting at 1,500. Imagine the dollar just coming down to 1,000. All right. So it means I'm going to take 800,000 to buy a barrel. All right. So it already automatically lowers the price in naira. So if our exchange rate, this is what I was talking about, the demand on dollar. If it continue, if Dangote comes on board, and we are no longer demanding so much on the dollar, and there's less pressure, and the dollar price begin to drop, it's going to reflect back on the price of crude internet, how much it costs in Nigeria, which is Dangote, using naira to buy crude. So it definitely, in our local market, the pricing of PMS will drop. So if that plays out, that's the angle we are hoping that it gives a positive reflection on, but not immediate. In the short term, we may still maintain that price, but as that price is impacting on our exchange rate, as it's impacting our exchange rate positively, lowering the cost of naira to buy a dollar, it's going to indirectly come back to influence the pricing of PMS in Nigeria.
I think this is the answer to the question Messi has been asking.
Yes.
This is the answer. This is where you just said it in a plain street person's language. Yeah, thank you very much for that. I think you have anything to tell Nigerians and Benue people?
You see, at this point, what we need to do as human beings is to be cautious.
Okay.
This is not the point to be so looking flamboyant and all that. Let us also see how we can maintain our status quo and live our lives as the pressure of the moment we kill. Because I see young men collapsing and falling down because this pressure is too much from both sides. But let's keep faith. Let's keep faith. Let's keep faith. I know that Nigeria is a great country. Benue is a great state. If we keep faith, and one of the major problems we have is lack of responsive leadership. If we have a responsive leadership at the national level that are listening to, just like what's happening in Kenya when the people came on the street, the man came out and said, "Oh, no, I no longer do this. I no longer do this. I know so much reversals, so much consolations. Let's go back and do it." But at the end of the day, the harm has been done. People were killed. So let's as a people also remain steadfast and see how this pans out completely.
All right. This is a good place to leave it, and we expect to have you discuss more interesting topic with you in the very near future. We've been talking to Dr. Raymond Ao, the lecturer of the Department of Economics, Benue State University. This program has been very interesting today, and we expect you to lay in your voice even as you watch after this time. Lay in your voice and put your contributions, ask your questions, and answers can be provided much later, even in the course of the day. Thank you very much for staying with us. My name is Stephen Abba.
And my name is Mercy Upa. Benue Television is going over at 9 a.m. Bye for now.
Thank you.